You're listening to Plus or Minus with Nathan, Frank, and Greg Moore.
Greg, that was pretty loud. You gotta tone it down, I think, right off the hop.
Why are you always telling me what to do, Frank?
Because I care about you.
Not once
I'm
have you
concerned about your
volunteered to do the
well-being.
intro. You should do the intro yourself next time.
Maybe I will.
In fact, let's do it right now.
You're listening to Frank and Greg, Plus Minus with Frank and Greg.
Yeah,
That
you
was
got
worse.
you got a career going ahead of you in monster trucks.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going for, is the monster truck. Because this is going to be a wild evening of listening pleasure.
Or heavy metal. I guess you can do that too.
Sure.
Are you a big fan of Slayer, Frank?
I'm more of a fan of Petra and White Cross.
We got a big day ahead of us today. Do you know why?
Because not the Red Wings or the Red Lions, but the Eston Ramblers are playing against the Coyotes in Game 5 of the SVHL semifinal.
That is potentially one reason why it could be a big day. No, I was thinking more something that hits home, Frank. Maybe right in your heart.
I don't know what.
Oh heck!
I don't know.
Let's let everyone know. Nathan, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Nathan. Nathan, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Nathan.
Let's end this awkwardness, but I appreciate the birthday. It's the first birthday song I've gotten today, and I appreciate it, Greg.
Is it true that your parents just kind of said happy birthday and just left you at their house?
Yeah, like I'm at rock bottom in my life, right? I'm living with my parents. I'm moving out in a couple weeks, which is going to be good. But
who are you moving in with?
Just turned 27, living rock bottom life, and my parents tell me when I was gone for the weekend, I visited friends in Regina and Moose Jaw, and I come home and my parents tell me, "Yeah, we're leaving Tuesday morning." I'm like, "Mom, that's my birthday," and they're like, "Yeah, we gotta go."
Here's what I say, Frank. When you hit 25, it doesn't matter anymore. I get so exhausted of hearing people celebrate their birthdays when they're 26 and up. I don't care anymore.
I understand what you're saying. Here's my take. If you're going to give someone a happy birthday wish on Facebook, you have to say more than happy birthday, because if you're just saying happy birthday, you don't mean it. You're trying to be polite, and I don't want it.
You know what you should do today is you go to everyone that wishes you happy birthday and say,
"Screw you,
I
buddy.
dare you to name one relevant thing that has happened in my life in the past 3 years."
You know about.
Right?
Yeah.
That'll separate the cream from whatever else the cream separates from. So Frank, you got some birthday love though.
Yeah, I got my buddy's wife, great friend. She says to me, "Happy birthday to one of the best guys I know. Whether it's tennis, drinking a coffee or a brewski, or playing a game of slow pitch, this guy is a good time. Enjoy a good brew today, Nathan Frank." And yes, ladies, he is single. That makes the guy feel good. And she posted a few goofy photos of me. It's pretty sincere.
She's kind of doing the work that Plenty of Fishes you've been paying them to do for you.
She's soliciting me to the public.
So I heard that you actually moved on from Plenty of Fish.
Yeah, I'm done.
Tinder.
I'm done with Plenty of Fish. It's disgusting, and I moved on to Tinder, which is probably just as gross, and it's also a meat market.
So you're just brand new into it, though.
Basically, all you got to do is you go yes or no, left or right, and you say you like or dislike, and it's that simple.
So stay tuned.
I guess you introduced me to that.
Who?
You.
Well, I mean, I work in the media.
You're a bad influence on me, Greg.
I'm telling you, I work in the media. I hear about these things. I got to tell someone to try them out.
You're leading me astray, Greg.
Well,
what were you up to this week? I saw some pictures on your Instagram about you interviewing some cool cat or something.
Well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's just thank puckrant.com for giving us a place to stay, as they always do. Our executive producer, Maddie O'Connell. You guys can reach us on Twitter at Nathan Frankster and at Sir Greg Moore if you want to give us some comment love. And yeah, this week at work, we have a session called the White Couch Session, and we interview some people around Regina that, help make a difference in the community.
And it's on a black couch.
And this week was on a black couch. So I don't really know if we're just going to call it the couch or the big comfy couch. That one's taken. I don't know, but it was fun.
It's not that funny when you have a black couch and you pretend it's white. It's not that funny.
Well, actually, it usually is white. We didn't have a vehicle to take our white couch to this guy's place, and so we just went with the black couch. We should have brought a sheet, but we weren't thinking.
If you really wanted a future in the media, Greg, you do realize you could go straight to the tap.
Straight to the Tap, which is a restaurant here in the city. Speaking of media love, Frank, Is it true last week you got a ton of retweets
I
and
was
shout outs from
I was
BJ
getting
Becker
I
himself?
was getting tons of love from the blue line king, the cherry picker himself,
He doesn't play
the
defense, he
beer
plays
the
offense.
beer bellied Brant Becker, Becker's blue line, and he retweeted me. He favorited my story I wrote on puckrant.com, and he's a follower now of myself, and that's pretty neat. And
Well, we want to give
I shouldn't care near as much as I do, and shouldn't bring me near as much joy as it does. But I am a pretty normal human being who is easily impressed.
Well, I'll tell you this. Mad props to BJ Becker for finding the humor in that article and in the truth,
He
BJ,
wasn't
because
offended.
he was not offended. And another shout out, and I know if you're listening to this in North America, because I know puckran.com has like thousands and tens of thousands of viewers. We live in Saskatchewan, Canada, right in the middle. It's kind of how we describe it to people that live outside of Saskatchewan. Hey, where are you from? We're from Saskatchewan. Where is that? It's in the middle of Canada. Nathan and I went to college in a small community, and in this province of 1 million people, there's a
Now
contest going on
1.1.
with 1.1. There's a contest going on called the CBC Future 40, where they pick 40 people in the whole province that are under 40 that are kind of going to be the future of the province. And guess what?
Two
Small
from Eston.
world.
Two from
Two
Eston.
from Eston.
It's crazy.
Two of the I swear to you, I've watched this beta guy play
I think
hockey
he
once.
played. I think later on in our time in Eston,
I think I saw him fight someone.
I think he's a better person than he is a hockey player. Apparently,
Well, and then there's Johnny Meyer, the goalie who has forever left a mark on my life. When I was learning to play net, I remember I went to a Ramblers practice because they would rather shoot on someone who can't skate than just hit posts. And Johnny's a pretty competitive guy. And I remember at one point in the practice, he was taking this really serious. And he kind of took the puck in the slot and wound up as hard as he could and shot the puck and hit me right below the neck. And to this day, when I breathe really hard, I can still feel my lungs start to collapse a little bit. So Johnny, you have left a mark on my life.
he's a pretty decent guy, and I think he's becoming a better person as the years go by. But he's pretty funny too, and he contributes to his community. It said the CBC article said that has raised $90,000 for his community.
He's a big influencer in the community, and keep it going, Johnny.
I wrote an article about him, and I called him a mover and a shaker.
Which is he first though?
I'd say he's a shaker, and
I
then
was gonna say, I bet you he's got a pretty good shake.
I think first he was a shaker, and then he's like, "Well, I'd like to, expand my repertoire," and then he became a mover.
So I just want to apologize for my voice. If I sound a little bit stuffed up, Frank, and I might, I've been fighting a cold since our last podcast. But I have good news.
And you're eating salad all the time to compensate.
I'm eating salad to try and healthy myself out. But no, I found what I've been looking for 6 months: Buckley's cough medicine.
Mm.
You ever had Buckley's before?
I thought you were gonna say you found like your soul. You found the Lord or something. Like you found what you were looking for. Like you're going down the path of the U2, but you found Buckley's. Okay.
I've been looking for Buckley's for 6 months, and I finally found some at the Walmart pharmacy. And if you've never tried Buckley's, I know it's a Canadian thing. If you're ever visiting Canada, or if you're listening to this from the States and you want to try Buckley's, I will send you some of the best cough medicine known to man. You've tried it before, haven't you, Frank?
Does it taste good or no?
You've never had Buckley's before?
I've tasted it, and as far as I remember, it tastes disgusting.
Oh, it tastes like pure health to me.
It tastes like pure gasoline.
And speaking of health, so I get home today and my wife says, we're going to go for a run today. And the backstory to this is we want to get in shape. Okay. I'm 28 years old. I'm starting to get a little bit on the chunky side, hence why I'm eating some salad. And we sign up for, get this, the Queen City Marathon out here. Okay.
Oh
So
my!
I'm
You
signed
signed
up
up
for
for that? Oh my goodness!
I paid $80 or $90 for this. It's a half marathon. Okay.
You're gonna
So I
get
think
goosed. You're gonna sit there on the side of the path, and you're gonna be keeled over with your face in the grass, and you won't be able to get her done. I'm worried about you, Greg.
well, I'm pretty ambitious, so I thought, you know what, I could spend some time with my wife, run around the lake. It'll be easy. It'll be simple. So tonight she says, okay, let's start getting in shape because she's been, running for a little while now. And so I get home early from work. I'm laying on the couch checking the hockey scores, which we'll get to right after this, I promise. And she comes home, and I use every excuse in the book to try and get out of it.
Great.
I'm not feeling good. I'm sore. I'm stiff. I'll start next week, whatever. She does not budge.
You convicted me, Greg. You realize that when you were out running, I was asleep on the couch.
Well, let me tell you,
Maybe
Frank,
if I had a wife, maybe I'd be motivated.
I'm trying to do my best out here to be motivated. So I get out there and I start running and jogging, and I get to about 1 kilometer, and I'm like, what is going on here?
You're a
My body is
goose.
just like it's seizing up, it's screaming at me, it starts perspiring, and I'm like, you want me to run 21 kilometers and that's supposed to be fun? In fact, I'm going to pay you money to do this?
I just
This is insanity. I feel like I got ripped off from a made for TV commercial.
I'm worried about you, Greg. I think you're just gonna keel over and your bone marrow will be in pain and you will not be in good shape after that.
I'm in trouble.
I'm worried.
I'm not even sure I can walk 21 kilometers in a day, Frank.
I'm not sure if you can do anything for 21 kilometers in a day.
I listen, if you're listening to this
You
podcast, you
couldn't
get some
advertise or
tips.
market for 21 kilometers in a day.
This is ridiculous. So I feel like I got sewered in this deal, and I mean I know it's in September, but I'm screwed here. So if you got any listeners, if you got any tips, help me out here because I'm struggling. I'll give you updates every weekly updates. How many kilometers I've ran, and today I walked. What was it? I finished. It was 5 kilometers in just under an hour, and most of that I walked. Some of it I crawled. Some of it I rolled. But a lot of you tune into this podcast for hockey, I think.
I think that's why people listen. Do you remember a year ago we recorded a podcast actually, and you remember what we did before we did record the podcast? We went to Bocados, and Jason Kerr, who I did color with the other day, he got a well done steak. Just destroyed that steak, and I know that's not topical at all. So let's move on to hockey.
That was probably one of the worst segues to hockey I've heard.
But who
But
gets a well done steak? Like that just ruins this fine piece of meat.
yeah, people that get well done steaks. Here's what I think about them, and this is me being really honest with you. I think that they live in fear of a lot of things.
They have mental health problems.
Yeah, I feel like they're scared that their steak is going to haunt them or give them some sort of disease.
They're
So
afraid of the
they
E. coli.
they kill it again. I mean, it's already dead. You've
Yeah.
cooked it, and so they kill it again.
You got to trust the cook. You got to live a little, and you need to let that. You got to let that be red. Let it
If
be.
you're
Let it be
paying
moist.
if you're paying that much money for an adobo steak penny at Bocados, and if you're ever in Regina, we'll take you. It's the best pasta steak combo I've ever had in my entire life. You can't ruin it out of fear. Read a good book, motivate yourself, and do that thing right.
In fact, I'm going to write a blog about fear, and I'm going to throw it on my blog site.
And with that is Frank's second strike on the segue to hockey. We'll just go straight for it. Frank, the
Yes,
Jets,
the Jets.
they're out.
Greg, is Paul Maurice for real?
Those are two different topics. Let's start with the Jets.
I was just trying to skip the Jet topic and go straight to Paul Maurice. The Jets, you think they're basically eliminated? They're in the same boat as Vancouver, basically.
They're not mathematically eliminated yet, but watch them last night just roll over to St. Louis and then just start throwing fisticuffs at the end to try and have some semblance of integrity.
Really, they were eliminated prior to the Olympic break. They were eliminated before they got Paul Maurice. At that point, this team was I don't know, probably 5-6 games below 500. And sure, they played better for a little while, but now they've came back down to earth.
A little while.
They're 3-4-3 in their last 10 games, Greg.
Under Paul Maurice before that break, they were invincible. I think they lost maybe once or twice. They were 8-2 in something.
But it
And they
couldn't
were given
last, right?
all sorts of hope. And I'm a guy who's very optimistic, and I was looking forward to it. And I thought to myself, is this the year? And then I have my friends text me reminding me that no, this is not the year. And there are no years moving forward that will be the year, nor have there been years in the past. You will finish ninth at highest, and your team will be run into the ground.
It's the same script again and again with Winnipeg. They give you this faint hope, but they're never gonna. They have never been close. They're like it's a very similar story to the Calgary Flames or the Toronto Maple Leafs prior to last year, where they would, they'd suck for the beginning of the year, or maybe they get off to a hot start, and then they would just drop the ball for just long enough so they couldn't make the playoffs.
At least with the Leafs, they've got a budget behind them, and they can buy and put in ridiculous salaries on people, and maybe hit the lottery once in a while. Like Jeff Finger, that was a fail.
Jeff Finger.
Remember that?
Shall his name never be mentioned in this podcast ever again?
But you can, and at this point in the season, Clarkson probably a fail. But once in a while, you're gonna get lucky, and Phil Kessel has finally worked out for them. They gave up a fortune for that. But the Jets have admittedly said they will never do that.
You know what the Jets do have going for them is they are getting themselves a little decent group of prospects. They're building out a little bit of a tent, a little group of projects. They got Josh Morrissey, Nick Matan, Eric Comrie, and then they have those players that are already in their lineup, like Shifley and
Truba and
Truba. Yeah, so they're they're
Post was not bad
they're,
either.
they're building something. But the fact is, are they going to be able to put the extra pieces in to actually be a contending team?
My concern is that by the time they are a contending team, they won't have the budget or the room or the wherewithal to actually pay these guys what they're worth. They're giving Dustin Bufflin almost $6 million to be a second or third line winger.
They really shouldn't be given by Fugland that kind of money.
Do you prefer the Byfuglien?
Yeah, I really do. I think it should be pronounced by Fugland.
Why is it?
And
Why is it that?
it should be Alexander Seaman, et cetera, et cetera.
Frank, you are one piece of work. I'll tell you that much.
I shoot from the hip, Greg,
Yeah,
as the saying goes.
we can tell, and I'm never playing darts with you ever again.
That
You
hit.
wanted to talk about Paul Maurice.
Yeah. Do you think? Well, I mean, obviously they've fallen off. They're 3-4-3 in their last few games. So you think that he's the coach for the future for the Jets?
Well, how long's this future?
The next 5 years, the next 3 years? Is he gonna
Let's go with
is
3
he gonna
years.
usher them into being a playoff contender? And you already said that you're pretty doubtful. You're pretty skeptical of your team.
Okay, but I'll answer your question and tell you Paul Maurice will be the next coach for the next 3 years. And if only because he's got these guys working hard. And the Flames have shown us that you can have a skeleton of a hockey team and work hard and still win games in the new NHL.
And the Jets have more going for them than the Flames. There's no doubt about that. We could talk about another team that has been struggling for as long, if not longer, than the Jets, and that is the Edmonton Oilers.
Ba-da-ba.
Will they contend next year? Like seeing their defense is starting to come together slowly but surely. But is that defensive group going to be fine enough for next year?
On principle, I almost don't want to answer this question because I think that every hockey analyst, podcaster, sports writer, everyone who watches hockey for the past probably 3 years, at least the past 2 years, and if not for sure last year, said, you know what? The Oilers are going to make the playoffs this year. They got to make it this year.
They
They
could
can't miss again.
they could use a couple veteran defensemen that are reliable to usher in these younger prospect defensemen, and they could use a big body down the middle. It's like they still have their holes, but and they're in a tough Western Conference, so it's going to be difficult for the Oilers to make it next year. But you could hope they could at least be more competitive.
I think that's probably the biggest surprise for the Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks in the same sentence was the move to the Pacific Division for both of them. Before in that what division was it? It wasn't the Mountain Division.
Northwest.
In the Northwest, the Vancouver Canucks were the kings of the crop there for a while. It was them and Minnesota battling for it. Then they moved to the Shadow of Death in Death Valley, California, and they're irrelevant. They're in a
Yeah.
matter of minutes, they're playing for a wild card spot at best.
It was such a poor division before. Like at one point, one year Colorado kind of competed, and then the next year they fell completely off the map. And Minnesota wasn't competitive at that point. There's never been more than two good teams in that division when the Canucks were good all those years. It kind of makes you wonder like how good Vancouver actually was.
Well, let's talk about that for the Oilers then. So for them, it's bad timing. Like if they're in the Northwest, they're probably going to compete next year. But I don't see Anaheim, LA, or San Jose getting any worse over the next year. Do you?
Well, San Jose could fall off at some point. I mean, Joe Thornton is going to be 35 pretty soon. So if there's any team, it would be San Jose. But Anaheim, they are stock. That team has been well put together. They're stocked for the future. Their stars are in their prime. Their goaltending depth is unmatched. There's no team in the NHL that could even match this team for their depth and their prospect pool. Anaheim isn't going anywhere. LA still a team that's in their prime, coming off a Stanley Cup 2 years ago. Like, how do you sneak into the Western Conference picture?
There's no room. There's just no room for the Oilers or the Flames or anyone else.
But the thing is that this can turn around quickly. But I guess I'm looking at Pittsburgh as an example, as a team that they were horrible. They had three or four first overall picks, first and second overall picks, and then they were bottom of the league even the year before they made the playoffs, and then they were in the playoffs, and a year later they're in the Stanley Cup final. But as I was going to say, they were in the Eastern Conference. A little bit different of a story, is it not?
Well, yeah, it's different of a story because you're not dealing with powerhouses like the the California teams, but you also drafted Sidney Crosby and Malkin in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
two elite centers, arguably two of the best centers in the entire league. So
Ta-
that'll help
Taylor Hall and Nugent Hopkins may be all right, but they are no superstar forwards like those two. I
at
was
this time.
I was reading an article about how they should have picked Seguin, and then they wouldn't have drafted Nugent Hopkins and would have drafted Langestog instead. It's just like complete hindsight's 2020. The fact is that they weren't bad at the right time.
Here's what I hope, Frank.
And
I hope you never write a blog like that, where you can look back in the past and say, you know what? If they would have, then this, then that. How easy is that?
it's ridiculous. And the fact is that Nugent Hopkins is going to be good. It's just unfortunate that his body isn't maturing quicker. I think he'll be okay, and I don't think Tyler Seguin is a superstar forward. Like obviously he's pretty good. He's top 15 in the league, but
He's crushing it this year.
yeah, he's good. But yeah, again, hindsight's 2020, and you can't really fault Taylor Hall. The guy is a good winger to have. I mean
So,
Taylor Hall or Langeskog. I think that's kind of apples and oranges, and I would go with probably Taylor Hall.
so you're saying Sagan's going to be better, or excuse me, Hopkins will be better than Sagan.
No, that's not what I said. I said that it's easier to say that now, and the fact is that especially if you wouldn't have taken Taylor Hall, you would have taken Seguin, then you wouldn't have taken Hall the next year. And yeah, maybe they have an argument, but as I said, it's hindsight's 2020, and Taylor Hall is probably better than Landeskog. Is my point. So
Hall's great.
I think the two combos. I don't think it's a losing proposition to have Taylor Hall and Nugent Hopkins over Seguin and Landeskog.
You're not going to hear me complain. I'll tell you that much. Here's what I'm saying, though. Hopkins, I've been on the guy forever to work out and gain some weight, but after my attempted run today, Hopkins, take your time, man. Don't you worry about it. Don't let these guys get on your back.
He's probably drinking too much cola like you. I mean, he looks so sickly. He needs to improve his diet. If anything else, he needs to eat more spinach salad like you're eating, and a little bit of kale.
Lay off. I'm starving. Do you know that quote?
Yeah, that's off of that's Chris
Saturday Night
That's
Live,
Chris
yeah.
Farley at his best, and you kind of butchered it, Greg.
Well, you know what?
You didn't commit.
I'm due for. Lay off! I'm starving!
That's much better. That's a much better commitment.
So you want to talk about Darren Detition as a TSN analyst?
He loves saying the word deuce, and he's a pretty funny guy. And I think he represents Saskatchewan well. I mean, he's no Jay Onright, but I think he does a pretty good job.
Are they both from Saskatchewan?
No, Jay Onright's from Alberta. He grew up in next door to a pharmacy. His dad was a drug pusher.
So you think that? Why'd you throw Jay Onright in there then?
I'm just saying that Darren Detition's pretty darn good, but you can't really compare him to Jay Onright.
It's pretty tough to do. Darren Detition reminds me of a musclehead.
Do you like him though?
He makes me laugh because I feel like he embraces it. Even on Twitter, he says funny things all the time. I don't really
Yeah.
have anything off the cuff to follow him, but if you're not following him on Twitter, give him a follow. He's pretty candid on there.
I like how I just like his terminology, like say drops his flippers. He's just a funny dude.
So do you have
That's about
do you
all I
have
have
your
to say
own?
about Darren Detition.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me that he was horrible or something.
No, I like him. I just wanted to know what you thought.
So if I had a lexicon for you, what would be some words that Frank uses all the time?
Well, I'd probably go, oh, and I say, hello. What else do I say, Greg? You know me better than I do.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, Frank, if you're like me and I spend at least one day a week with you, and if you're a dedicated listener to the Plus Minus podcast, you know some of Frank's sayings. I've got a couple lined up here. How about this one?
So that's Small Town Boy. That's by Bronski Beat. That's one of the best band names ever.
Does that ring a bell, Frank?
Yeah, I think it's not so much the words I say. I think it's the way I say things, and I think it's been an evolution of the people I've spent time with, hanging out in small town Saskatchewan, spending time with Greg, and honestly, I think that Sean Mailer, you met Sean Mailer from Regina. He grew up in Estevan. I think they have kind of this rural way of speaking too, and I think he's impacted the way I speak as well.
So you're saying that small town Saskatchewan. I know we're talking a lot about
It's
Saskatchewan.
really butchered the way I talk.
So you're saying that the English teachers in Saskatchewan are horrible.
Yeah, they definitely destroy us as human
We're
beings.
we're insulting a lot of people today. So let's get back to the hockey talk. Ryan Miller plays for the St. Louis Blues, arguably one of the best defensive teams in the NHL, if not the. I would call them probably second to the Boston Bruins at this point because the Bruins are streaking again, but we hate them, so let's move on. Ryan Miller, 7-0-1.
Do you think I brought that up, Greg, because I guess you brought it up, but do you think that he is going to be this player that brings him over the top?
I think he could. I think he's doing what everyone expected them to do, or him to do, when he went to St. Louis. It all depends, and I know this is kind of a cop out answer. It all depends on the playoffs. Previously, Elliott and Halak all played really well, but I think that I'm convincing myself while I'm talking. I think that Ryan Miller gives their team that intangible belief to steal a game for them and to steal multiple games for them. He reminds me of a Curtis Joseph when he played on St. Louis back in '93.
He's a little more technically sound, but he definitely brings that edge to the Blues that they haven't had for a while. Probably not since Curtis Joseph. You're right. And the thing about him is, yeah, and he's got experience. To be honest, he's a champion. He brought Buffalo that close to the Stanley Cup final. Who knows what would have happened? Gold medal, goaltender. But the thing is, my question is he going to love his experience so much in St. Louis that he stays, or is he going to go for the money?
I think he's going to go for the money, and it might be in St. Louis. But the longer he keeps that helmet white, I know it's near the end of the season, the more that is a sign to me that this guy is not playing his cards at all.
The thing with Miller is like you kind of think about an environment that he perhaps wants to live in, and he played and lived in Buffalo for nearly a decade, and that's been rated as one of the I think top worst two franchises and cities to live in and play in. So you question whether or not St. Louis would really be much of a downgrade for him, or whether or not he'd want to go play somewhere maybe closer to home, maybe in like Detroit. He grew up in Michigan, although Detroit can't really sign him because they got Howard. But whether or not he'd want to go for a more lucrative market.
I think this. I think Ryan, and I know you're listening, Ryan, because you always do. He's one of our dedicated listeners, actually. I don't know if I told you that, Frank.
Which makes sense. He's kind of a hipster, so he listens to the underground podcast.
So, Ryan, if you want my respect, and you tell me all the time that you do, you need to decide whether or not you want to play hockey to win or whether you want to play hockey to get paid. Because if you want to play hockey to win, you are on the team that is on the cusp, that is ready to take over to win. Am I wrong, Frank?
You are not wrong. What other contender could he play for? I mean, maybe he could find space in Minnesota, or I guess where else could he play? Like Minnesota's the one market that Dallas, perhaps Dallas, Kerry Lettinen may not exactly be the stable influence that Dallas is looking for. So there's some other options, but they do not compare to St. Louis.
There's no team right now that is as close as the St. Louis Blues. What were they missing the past 2 years? They've got the grit. They have not had the goals. And this year, Oshie, Tarasenko, Steen, Backus, they're all scoring. And they even got rid of Chris Stewart, who got so much attention.
Now they just
These guys are ready to win.
now they just need to stay healthy.
And that's part of the lottery of the playoffs. Which team can stay healthy the longest?
And they got to have that grit. They got to have the timely scoring. And the thing is, they're going to have the timely goaltending. Go St. Louis. Our Stanley Cup pick for 2014.
Oh, don't lump me into that.
Oh, sorry.
That was your Stanley Cup pick.
And our first round upset, the Boston Bruins, going down in round
now
one.
we're talking.
There we
Speaking
go.
of the Boston Bruins, how about Jerome Iginla? The guy's having another season. He's over 25 goals again.
He's got 26 goals. He's going to be over 30 again. And there's very few players in NHL history that can have been putting up the goals like Jerome Iginla. You know, one of the players that has as many 30-goal seasons as Jerome Iginla is Mike Gardner. Do you remember Mike Gardner, Greg?
Yeah, he was fast.
He was fast, but he knew how to put a puck in the net, too. He had over 700 goals in his career. Jerome's not going to get 700, but he could get over 600 if he keeps this up for a couple more years.
So does this change how you see Jerome Iginla? Because I know that he used to play on the Flames and used to be the staple Flame over there, and you are a Canucks fan, so you hate the Flames. Does this change how you view him? Do you have more respect for him when he retires in a couple of years?
I don't think it changes much, but just the fact that he can he could score 30 goals again in a full season like last year doesn't really count because it was only 48 games. So the fact that he can keep it up, keep on scoring 30 goals, just shows the fact that he is one of the better goal scorers of all time.
I know this. I know my mother is listening, and she calls Jerome Iginla her Iggy
She
because
loves Jerome.
she loves Jerome Iginla. In fact, I'm convinced that maybe he's my long lost brother or something because she spends more time talking about him than she does me most days.
He's just her Calgary boy.
The Calgary connection. Either way, Jerome, you made a horrible choice going to Boston, and I hope that you never win anything ever again.
You are angry, Greg, and this is your place to release it. So go for it. What else are you angry about other than Jerome McGinley? Well, I guess you could just go off on the Bruins for a couple minutes, Greg.
Can these guys lose? Like, nothing's more terrifying than watching this team go. They won again tonight. That is 9 wins in a row. They look invincible, and they're still missing their back end.
Man, did they build that team well, though. And they're pretty fortunate. I mean, it's hard to find those Milan Lucic's. I mean, I say the same thing all the time. It's hard to find those Zdeno Charas. And, man, did they fleece Toronto in that trade for Tuukka Rask, and that's paying dividends right now.
How can you say that when last week we said that they might have won the trade? Oh, you're talking about that's a Raycroft trade, isn't it?
Different trade, yeah. Raycroft for Tuukka.
You know, when I was in Milan with my wife, we spent 6 months in Milan. Guess who was the local goaltender?
You told me this a few episodes ago. It was Andrew Raycroft.
Yeah, I wanted to go say hi and rip up his O-Peachy hockey card in front of him, but we had our flame was leaving, so we had to get out of there.
Yeah, I would have should have given you my Pro Set hockey card. You could have got him to sign that as well.
I remember was Pro Set the ones. It was O-Peachy with the bubble gum. Right?
Peachy looked like it was from like the 70s. Like they were really old
the
school.
Blue and yellow.
And then the Pro Sets I think were like a little more shiny, not as old school looking, had more of a 90s feel to them.
I remember I had a bunch of Graham Dirk.
Oh, Graham Dirk. Oh yeah, mustache, Chicago.
It had
Blackhawk.
Captain on it. And so I thought he was a big deal. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, who knows where he is right now. He's probably hanging out in some minor hockey rink and probably yelling at his grandchildren.
What do you think he would yell? Do you think he'd be supportive yeller or a negative yeller?
I was going with the negative. He's probably saying, "Get my boy on the ice. I want Louis Graham on the ice." That's not a bad impression, eh?
Actually
that was pretty poor.
The jury's out, but you know what, Frank? I did see the mustache in my mind. So
let's pretend let's just pretend that never happened.
Okay, so a while ago we had a tweet in from Tyler Clark. He was wondering, this is during the Olympics, when Sidney Crosby was playing in the Olympics, they were having a real hard time finding someone to play with him. You remember that?
Who are we talking about? Sidney Crosby, the best player in the world.
Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
So they were having a real hard time getting guys to play with Sidney Crosby, and he wants to know, what is the deal with Sidney Crosby? And this came back to me this week. I know that was a long time ago. It came back to me this week because the Penguins just got wiped against the Flyers over the weekend. And, of course, no Kunitz. And they come back tonight. Kunitz is back in the lineup, and they crush.
So you honestly believe that Kunitz is the yang to Crosby's yang? And
Whoa. I'm asking the question. Is there something to this theory?
No, I don't think so. I think the thing is that Crosby just doesn't match up well against certain teams. And the reason he doesn't match up well against Philadelphia is I think they're honestly in his head. And that they get in his grill, they take away his time and space. And I think they just match up well against. The same thing with Boston. I think that Kunitz is an average player, and I think that you can get. I think another example is Dupuis playing with Crosby. He does well. I think Crosby makes the other players better, and I don't buy it.
You don't buy it. Well, I mean, watching this weekend, I watched them play Philadelphia, and Philadelphia brings the pain all game long against these guys. It's like they're a different team. And if that's the case, Frank, Philadelphia is in the Penguins division. There's no way they can avoid them. And the Bruins, I'm going to say, are probably going to win their division and go to the Eastern Conference Final. There's no way the Penguins don't play these two teams in the playoffs, which you're telling me is going to happen. So the Penguins are done?
Definitely. And talk about the need for a timely save. Like, that's not in Pittsburgh's favor either. It's the fact that these other teams can get a timely save from the goaltenders, possibly. And the fact is that Marc-Andre Fleury can't outplay anyone. He couldn't outplay Ilya Bryzgalov a few years ago, or Evgeny Nabokov last year. These are terrible goaltenders on teams that don't play defense either.
Do you think it's? Well, I mean, yeah. I guess he was batting in the Islanders, wasn't he, before he went to Philadelphia?
That was the Islander series was after the Philadelphia series. The Philadelphia series was first, and he was horrendous back to back. I mean, they pulled him last year and put Vokoun in. Vokoun's like 35 years old. He's out of his prime. He barely moves in the net, and he did much better than Marc-Andre Fleury.
I'll tell you this. This must have something to do with the fact that on the back of my number when I play net is 29. Okay, and I'm playing really bad hockey right now. Like I'm one of the worst goaltenders out there I've seen, and I think it might have something to do with the fact that I look up to Marc Andre Fleury.
You take your inspiration from the flower.
I'm playing. Here's how many different leagues there are: A, B, C, D1A, D1B,
And you're an E.
D2, and E. Well, I'm in D1B, but our record is 2, 22, and like 2.
And you stole those 2 games, didn't you, Greg?
No, I don't think I did.
So
I'm just,
you think there's a connection between you and the flower? And
and we're born the same year.
maybe I was saying last podcast that if you were drafted that year, it would be you on the Pittsburgh Penguins and not him.
Okay, Frank. So let's move on to some teams that are on the cusp and are just what's the line from the Lord of the Rings? Their journey is on the edge of a knife, something like that.
I'm not a big fantasy guy, Greg. So I'm not gonna be able to help you here, but I can help you with who I think is gonna make the playoffs. And this is gonna be a weekly column, I think, for the next few weeks until the playoff starts. That's for sure.
Well, I think we're down to a couple. And one comment I want to make on the weekend: you had to have seen Montreal versus Ottawa.
I did. I was casually watching that game uh, on Saturday evening, and Ottawa came back.
No, they didn't. Montreal came back. Montreal is down 4-1 with about 3 minutes left, and you obviously didn't watch the game if you thought Ottawa won. But Ottawa here, they are fighting for a playoff spot, and they need these
Shows how
points.
much I care about about those teams.
And I'm all for good hockey. Montreal comes back. Montreal comes back to tie the game 4-4. They win it 5-4 in overtime. How can you blow that if you're the Ottawa Senators?
They just do not have it this year. Like just the simple stat that you can look at is 190 goals for and 221 goals against. When have scored 30 less goals than goals for, then you're not a playoff team. You're not even close. Like they're just not a good team this year.
And remember, you went on the record saying that Ottawa's going to make it.
And that was a mistake.
And I went on the record saying they're not going to make it, which makes what?
You're really smart, Drake.
Which makes me a good guesser, Frank. So take that and sell it.
I,
So Ottawa's out. We agree on that. New Jersey is out.
New Jersey's out. They stumbled over the weekend. They lost 3 straight games, or lost most of the games over the weekend. They're done. So it's between Detroit, Washington, and then the 2 teams that are currently in the wild card, and that's Washington has 74, and the Rangers have 76. So those teams are still in it.
Well, Rangers won tonight, so it's 78 for the Rangers, Philadelphia 77, Columbus 76, Detroit 75, Washington 74.
And the thing is, Detroit has these games in hand, so they're in good shape if they can use those games.
Yeah, and so does Columbus. Columbus, they blew one tonight, but they've got games in hand too. I'm still going to say that Columbus is going to sneak in the playoffs. Philadelphia is looking real good. They're going to make the playoffs with the Rangers and Pittsburgh as well. So it's going to be Toronto, Columbus, and I'm going to say Detroit's going to miss for the first time in a while.
So basically, you're sticking with who's already in.
Yeah, but it's fun to eliminate teams every week. I think the fans like that.
So we eliminated everyone but Detroit and Washington, and you don't think Washington has what it takes to bring it in down the stretch?
Nope, not at all. And when we go to the Western Conference, Winnipeg eliminated. I think we can agree that Vancouver is eliminated.
So it's basically Dallas.
Well, the Dallas Phoenix is in there.
And
It's
Minnesota.
either Dallas or Phoenix. And Dallas is going the wrong direction since Rich went down, and Phoenix is going the up.
I think I'm still going to go with Dallas to pull up and get that final playoffs 8 spot over Phoenix. I think Dallas is actually going to pull it off this year. They've been so close the last few years, and they always fall out at the end. But I'm thinking they're going to take it this year.
I would love for Dallas to make it because I can cheer for that team. If it wasn't for Kari Lettinen being the Band-Aid he is back there all the time, and I know that being a Thrashers fan, the guy was always hurt. Even when he went to Dallas, I said, okay, he's going to be great for you for about 1/3 of a season before he gets hurt, and he's hurt now. I would love to cheer for them. I would love to cheer for Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn in the playoffs.
I don't really like Tyler Seguin very much. I'll be honest, but I am a big fan of Jamie Benn. I was just thinking, Greg, and it's probably not good to bring this up in the podcast, but the fact is, we are running out of things to talk about because we talk every single week, and we're talking playoffs, and we've basically talked about every single team here and what we think.
Well, I'll tell you this: if you fans, you got to help us out here. You got to give us some comment. What is a hot topic on your mind? And if that's BJ Becker, you let us know. If that's Johnny Meyer, you let us know. Tweet us at Nathan Frankser, at Sir Greg Moore, and help us out.
Or maybe you even want to be on the show. Maybe we could somehow pull that off. We'll have a guest, and the fact is that there's wild things ahead for the Plus Minus podcast in the future. I am moving closer to Regina, and Greg and I are going to do some wild things.
Oh, we didn't even say that, Frank. You got a new job, and you're going to be about half an hour drive away from me.
Yeah, so I'm going to be super close, and we're going to improve this podcast even more.
We're talking the producers. We're talking videos. We're talking HD. We're talking lights, cameras, action.
We are going to create something that to be proud of.
So here's what we want you guys to do. We want you guys to tweet us your questions at Nathan Frankser, at Sir Greg Moore. We're going to cut it off here because we know you guys have places to be. It was a busy week. You got a busy weekend coming. Thank you for listening to us. I promise you we will do better next time. But we have to let us hope will take us out.
Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy the spring. Beautiful weather out there.